Hello everybody, I have in front of me here two cameras to review, the Sony Alpha 6000 or A6000 and the Sony Alpha 7 or A7. These are two of the newest cameras that Sony's been offering right now. A little disclaimer about this review. I'm reviewing from a hobbyist perspective, so this is just someone who likes to take photos for fun and have nice quality images. For those of you who are looking for more of a, I guess, professional photographer's perspective, you want to know about lens quality, distortion, things like that, this probably isn't the review you're going to be looking for. I'm just going to be comparing these cameras and their kit lenses, so what you get out of the box, not any add-ons or things like that. A little bit of background about myself. I've had a DSLR for about 7 years, and they were both Canon. I rarely ever use those cameras. I found it was kind of a little bit big and a little bit bulky, and the weight was a little heavy, especially just for taking casual pictures. So I didn't really take it out a lot. I mostly kept it at home, and it just wasn't portable enough for me. So I left it at home, and what I ended up taking out more was a point-and-shoot camera. I also avoided Sony's cameras for quite a while, just because when mirrorless was still in its developmental stages, so there were some problems with challenges with getting good autofocus. Other challenges that I found were I didn't quite like Sony's NEX menu system. It looked more like a point-and-shoot menu, and I found it wasn't the most intuitive or easy to navigate. But I happened to, so what brought me here? I happened to just be in the mall one day, and I saw the Sony store, and I thought, hey, you know what? Haven't been in the Sony store for a while. Walked up to I walked up to the camera area. I wanted to see, what they had come up with. I didn't know anything about the A6000. I didn't know when it was released or anything like that. I just picked up the camera. I've tried to focus on something, and I tried to take a picture, and this is what ended up happening. I had no idea what just hit me. For those of you, that sound there, that's the camera taking pictures. Sony's rated this as taking, I believe, 11 frames per second. I was blown away when I picked up the A6000. I had previously used a Canon, I believe it was a 650D, and that only has about 4 frames a second. So when I picked this up, I had no idea what was going on, and I was very impressed with that. The other thing that impressed me was that Sony's menu had changed from an NEX menu to something that was more similar to a traditional DSLR menu, something that you would find with Canon or Nikon, and I really like that. So let me talk a little bit here about the A6000. Well, I've already been talking about it, but let me talk about it a little bit more. I actually really like this camera. I think that, it's great. It's portable. There's electronic viewfinder here. So for those of you who don't like to who don't like to just look at the screen here to take your pictures, to get your image, you can also look in the electronic viewfinder. I think this is small. I love how small and portable it is. If you look at the lens, just the kit lens here, it collapses back into itself, and you can fit this quite easily into any bag that you have and just pull this out whenever you need to. I love, the one thing that you need to know about this is a crop sensor camera. It's aps-c sized image sensor, and for those of you who are wondering, image sensor is actually what records the image in front of you here. So the Alpha 7 has a larger image sensor, which means that it can pick up more light in low light situations, whereas this one's slightly smaller, so it's not able to pick up as much light. That's a very quick overview. There's many more details to that. I find it, I think this is really portable. And I love that the electronic viewfinder is off on the side here, unlike the A7, which has it mounted on the top. So this makes it a very kind of compact design. The dimensions, you can just slide it in and out of a pocket really easily. The Sony Alpha 7 here, on the other hand, is it's a larger camera, it's a little bit heavier, and that's just due to the materials used in the design of the body. This has a little more plastic, and this has a little bit more metal in it. I believe it's aluminum or something like that. Both have a really great solid grip that you can pick up the camera with, and you don't feel like you're going to drop it at all. With the Sony A7, everything, you know, the button layout is very similar. It's if you bought this and then you wanted to transition over to this, you're not going to the learning curve isn't going to be too high. The menus are very similar. Everything's very similar. The biggest difference being that this is aimed more at a professional photographer, so it's more expensive. So this is $750, the A6000, and the Alpha 7 with the kit lens is about $1,800. Pretty big price difference there, and that's mainly due to the chip that you find inside the A7. It's a larger chip. It's equivalent to the 35mm format. So what does that mean? That means in low lighting situations, because this chip is a larger chip, the image sensor is larger. It means it could absorb more light, which translates into a better quality image in low light situations. Now, it's not saying that the image quality on the A6000 is bad in low light situations. It just means that this one, you know, the A7 can pick up slightly more detail and more light, so you get a better quality image. Now, if you took the A6000 and you put a faster lens on it, something with like a 1.4 aperture or 1.8 aperture, you can get some really good images in low light. But as I said before, this is just a review with the kit lens. Let's talk about some similarities between these cameras. Like I said, they're both around like I said earlier, they both have a nice strong grip to hold on to. It's rubber, so you're not going to drop this. They're both actually, what I'm surprised about is if you just feel the A7 on its own, you feel like it's a larger camera, and you feel like the A6000 is a smaller camera. But when you put them side to side, they're actually roughly about the same height and the same width. And I found that it's actually the electronic viewfinder that makes the A7 feel that much larger. It's about 5 centimeters. It protrudes about 5-6 centimeters off the top of the camera. So I actually really like the electronic viewfinder on the A6000. It's really compact. They've put it in a nice little corner of the camera. It doesn't need to be here. I think that Sony really put it there just because this camera is aimed at more of, I would say, the professional group, or people who are they use their DSLRs for professional purposes, for wedding photography, things like that. And I think that they put the electronic viewfinder here to make it an easier transition for them to come from DSLR to mirrorless. Daytime pictures between these two cameras, you probably wouldn't be able to tell much of a difference, if any, just using the kit lens. They both take extremely good pictures. They're excellent in daytime because there's plenty of light. They both have Wi-Fi capabilities, and they both have app capabilities. So you just download something from the Android store, and you're able to transfer pictures from both cameras onto your phone, or you're able to take pictures from your phone. Well, wirelessly control your camera through your phone, which is really great as well. I think you'll be happy with either camera if you're looking at daytime pictures. The differences, I'd say that differences in price, first of all, let's talk about that. The A6000 is $750, and the A7 is, like I said, $1,800. So there's quite a big difference in the prices there. One thing I found quite strange about the A6000 is that the battery drains even when the camera isn't on. So I had it about 80% one day. I came back 2 days later and it was down to about 40%. I might have a defective unit, or the A6000 is just, somehow eating battery when it's in standby mode. Not sure what's going on there. I thought that was a little bit strange. I haven't noticed anything really with the A7. I believe it has a slightly larger battery, but they're supposed to be the same size battery for both cameras, but I think this is like 950 milliamps, where this is 1000 milliamps, so it's just 50 milliamp difference, and it shouldn't really make a big difference. But I've been able to take a lot more pictures on the A7 than I have on the A6000, which I find kind of strange. Let's talk about low light pictures. Low light situations, both cameras take very good pictures again, but like I said, the A7 has a larger image sensor, which means it can absorb more light, which means your images are gonna have a little bit better detail, and the colors are gonna pop a little bit more than they do on the A6000. The other difference I notice here would be that the A7, for those of you who like to take videos, let me just turn this off. The A7 has a microphone jack, whereas the A6000 doesn't. So if you're into taking videos and you want to make movies, things like that, and you want a microphone, you're probably going to want the A7 because it has that feature, whereas the A6000 doesn't. The A6000, you'll just have to settle for using the on-camera mic, or you'll have to get the microphone accessory which fits in here to the hot shoe, and that's going to cost you more money, and it's going to make the camera bigger. So who's this for? I think when you're trying to decide which camera is for you, first thing you should decide on is what subject you're going to be shooting. So I'll use myself as an example. I'm typically just going to be taking pictures of pets, of my family, of my friends, and a lot of this, like I said, is indoors. And a lot of the time, you know, if you're in a restaurant or you're indoors, you're not going to have the same amount of lighting as you would in the daytime. And that's where I think the A7 comes in here, because it's got a larger sensor, it's going to take better pictures, and that's what I need. The other thing you should consider here is price. So if you have a price limit, you don't really want to be paying more than $1,000 for a body, which is reasonable because how quickly they come out with new bodies these days. The bodies of these cameras will depreciate very quickly. The A6000, I think at $750 is a really good bang for your buck. If you're just going for portability, this is great. You're not that if you're going for portability, you're not that concerned about low light images. You're going to be taking pictures in the daytime mostly. This is great because, like I said, you can put this in your bag or your pocket if you have a really big pocket, and take this with you anywhere. The A7 with the kit lens, like you can see, it protrudes quite a bit here, so it's a pretty big camera. You wouldn't be putting this in your pocket unless you're going to take the lens off all the time. But you know, both are very small. They're about the same weight. The A7 a little bit heavier. You know, that would be, to me, that would be the deciding factor there. If you're going to buy the A6000 and you want to take better low light images, you could buy an additional lens. So you could swap out the kit lens and, you know, buy a good prime lens, something with a fast aperture, and you could probably get some really good images in low light, and that would probably be the best way to save money and switch up the kit lens as well. Other than that, you know, like I said, they take great pictures in the daytime, and I think that whatever camera you choose, I think that you'll be very happy with both of them. Oh, one other thing to mention here is that in terms of low light, I find that when I'm indoors in low light situations, I think that the A7 is more accurate in focusing on the subject than the A6000, which is kind of interesting because the A6000 is supposed to have a newer and faster autofocus system. Sony says that the A6000 has the fastest autofocus system of any mirrorless camera. Now, the interesting thing is, in low light, I find that the A6000 hunts a bit before it can focus, and by hunting I mean, you know, it takes some time for it to focus on the subject, whereas the A7 is slightly faster. In the daytime, they both focus on the subject in about the same amount of time. The A6000, I believe, is slightly faster, but not noticeably faster. Not to me anyways. I'd have to actually put them beside each other and press the focus before I see a difference. This is a little bit faster, but not a huge difference. But in low light, this focus is faster, and there's definitely a difference. And I believe that difference is due to, in my opinion, I think it's because the A7 has a larger sensor, so it's more able to absorb light and focus quicker on the subject. But again, like I said, you'll be happy with either camera that you choose. I'm happy with both of these cameras. I was going for portability, but then I kind of regrouped and I thought about what I'll be taking images of. And I'll be taking images in low light, so I think I'm going to be keeping the A7 and selling or returning the A6000. But like I said, It's a similar body size. If you can deal with a larger lens and you don't mind paying a little bit more money, I think the A7 is a great camera as well. Okay, that's been the review. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'll respond as soon as possible, and thanks for your reviews. Have a